All right, hey everybody. Today's video is just a how, well, I guess more of a why of why we choose the 3-3 high defense for our high school program, and really, really recommend it for our youth program. The main reason for us is alignment. We think that we can align kids the best way, and we can defend the most things. It's just the easiest one to simplify when you need to and make complex when you need to. But I'll show you a couple reasons why we decided to go to this. When we started our program, we went from a 4-4 cover three defense, which was a great place to start. We had a lot of team speed. Our best opponents back then were in spread, and we had a lot of variety, so we needed a little bit more flexibility. So we for a little while went to a 4-3 split field coverage. Um, and it was great on paper. It was probably the most fun one to draw up on paper. But in with all the wing tee and unbalanced and motions that we saw, it ended up being a little bit of confusion on you know who was going to help out when motion went to one side, or when we were going to change a coverage. So we stayed in our 4-3 for a couple of years. And we were very successful. We had a ton of talent those years. So, um, but we stayed in a 4-3. But we sort of dictated our coverages. We went to a lot more man, and just stayed with those people that were motioning and going unbalanced, and it was pretty good for us. Um, Once we graduated some speed, we had to get a little bit more pressure and toughness up front. So our best fit was actually the 46 Bear. So our you know our our pressure was still there. Our man to man stuff was still there. We just lined up in a lot more of an attacking defense with more men on the line of scrimmage, which was really fun when we played, you know, average teams to decent teams. We were able to do really well. We had some talent. We were okay. But as we got bumped up to a higher division, we once again had to adjust to a lot of shifting and unbalanced and different formations and motions. And, it just wasn't fitting what we did. We found ourselves getting pulled out of it so much more often. And that's where we went to what we are now. So instead of starting in a 46 Bear, which essentially is a 5-3. I mean, if you look at how it's designed, I mean, it's a 5-3 with cover three or cover one behind it. It's still really the closest to a 5-3 that you can have. And we just decided that we thought putting guys out in space and adjusting from back to front helped us the best. So that was our progression. And for us, we're a smaller program. We aren't tiny, but we are smaller than any opponent that we see. Any other public school in our division is larger than us. So we need, when we're thinking long term, we need to be better or be different. So we can definitely put more types of guys on the field. We can be more flexible. We can look a little different. We hope that we can buy ourselves some time when teams aren't exactly sure how we're going to line up to them. So for us, it's the same positions when we draw it up on a whiteboard, but it's might look very different throughout a game to an opponent. Second, it helps coaches and play callers of all experience levels. So our base game plan, the kids are taking care of most of that. We don't have to make all these perfect calls. If we have a new coach um, who might not see the game, full speed, at game speed, this is a defense that you can win if you prepare. So if you put the kids in the right spot, we can look like we're doing a lot of things, and it's really just setting up kids with adjusting to formations and doing a few things based on what they see in front of them. So helps early play callers, I think, because they can focus on their hard work instead of their instincts watching game speed. They can focus on watching game film, put it in a solid practice plan throughout the week, and then we look like we're doing a lot. Old school coaches, like I was saying before with the Bear, old school coaches can set it up to be a 5-3 cover three. Modern coaches, we see a lot of different coverages that we want to run. We're dealing with some RPO stuff, or some people are dealing with RPOs, and this can definitely adjust to it. And then we still have that that bear front pressure type stuff that we can do. So it's a really multiple type defense, And just because you label someone as a certain position, someone might be a safety on paper, but they can do a lot of different things depending on who you put in at that spot. Um, it allows us to line up and play fast. So our adjustments come from back to front, so we can always see those adjustments. We can always have a kid who, if he is making a mistake on alignment, at least he's further back and he can adjust up, so that if we get caught in a tough spot, we're still in a position to line up again. Whereas if we're on the line of scrimmage in the wrong spot and they outflank us, now we run out of people. It also is not a it's not a defense that we have to call a strength in. We play a lot of teams that shift and they have different formations, so we don't necessarily have to call strength. We don't deal with a lot of like Sam linebacker, Will linebacker type stuff, or we could go field and boundary. We could do a few things, but pretty pretty straightforward the way we line up. Another reason is positions can be interchangeable, so that ties back a little bit to both our school size and uh, not having to lock a kid into one spot. Like hey coach, I'm only a Sam linebacker. Or I really only play field corner. I'm not sure how to do it from this side or that side. So we can't really afford that. We have to get our best kids on the field. So it all looks good when you're drawing it up on paper, but we really need to know that our best 11 guys for sure, and then our next 5 to 8 kids are going to end up on the field and they know multiple positions. So due to injuries and fatigue, kids playing on both sides of the ball, that kind of stuff. So we need to make sure that we don't get too specific with what we expect out of a position. We need to use what we have. Number 5, we can put our best 11 on the field. So pretty similar to that, right? Our next defensive end might be a better football player than the next available DB. So can we find a way to get that kid on the field if a DB goes down? It might be a lot better to play to this kid's strength and change the game plan a little bit rather than putting in the next corner who might not be ready. So we try to teach as many positions and principles of defense to let them play more spots on our defense. And this defense, to me at least, and maybe it's just what I've done for a long time, it's the easiest starting point to teach the principles of defense. So when we're talking spill players and force players and where to align and where to read, this just made the most sense for me without making the kids feel like they have to watch 100 hours of YouTube to understand it, or go to coaching clinics. So it just really worked for us. So just some quick alignment stuff to finish up, and then we'll get into some more alignment as we go. But we have 3 defensive linemen. All right, we call them a nose and 2 ends. We have 3 linebackers. We have a Mike, and then we just call these 2 guys backers. Sometimes we'll call them stacks, but those are backers. And then for our corners, we have regular corners, and then our 3 safeties. We've called him a free before. We've called these safeties. For us, we can call these guys Jags, and I like giving these guys a name that doesn't feel like they're always going to be backpedaling. So we want something that has an attack feel to it. So Jags sounds good for us. That's our mascot. And instead of a free, calling this guy an X, I think can help because you can really do a bunch of things with him game plan wise. So that's our alignment, but this can be all different stuff, right? I mean, if we're seeing a 2-by-2 spread, we can take our backers and have them leave the box, right? Just exchange gaps with the ends. So now, hey, it looks like we only have 4 within the tackles, but really there's only 4 gaps within the tackles. So we're in a pretty good spot with the X and the 2 backers ready to attack. So we really do have 7 to match their 7 in the box. But we also have a solid coverage on the outside too. So, if we saw something like that, it would look like, some sort of cover 2 on both sides. The X now could creep in and start playing in here, and we really end up in almost a 3-4, right? This guy can creep and move a little bit. He's not officially going to have a set spot all the time, but we end up looking like a 3-4. Whereas if you turned it into, let's say you go to a youth defense and in some high schools, some great high schools do this stuff. But if you get like a double tight, double wing, now all we have to do here is, we say we can have backers come up, and they basically become what your DNs would be. We just call them backers all the time. Um, the coverage is obviously going to be tightened up a little bit. And now we look like a 5-2 type of defense, because we can have that X man slide down and become a backer. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but we can line up pretty quickly to this stuff and be okay. If we had traditional I formation, this would be something where our Jags would be down. Our backers could be, maybe our backer still stays on that tight end. He can go down to the tight end and bump him in, or he can stay back. We're really okay either way. It just depends on scheme or game plan that week. So I mean, if we see something like this, now we're a 3-3 on paper, but we start really looking like a 4-4, I guess. I mean, we're doing a lot of things just by what we decided that week on how to align without telling the kids that we're running 5 different defenses. So it's been really helpful to us to be able to align the right way, make it easy for coaches to understand, give some flexibility to coaches who, maybe they were brought up in a different system. It's hard to teach someone a new system, but to be able to tell them, hey, these principles are going to end up very similar to your 4-4 or your 3-4 that you've done for a long time, but it's also easy for our 6th grade kids to understand. I think that's a win for us. So our our 3-3 high defense has been really good to us. We've made the playoffs 2 years in a row. We still have a long way to go, and I'll definitely show some videos on that of when we get beat. Definitely not all about pretending we're perfect, but it's been really really good for us to teach other people, to have people catch on fast, and hopefully it helps you guys. So reach out anytime, and I'll talk football any chance I get. So reach out. Hopefully this helped you a little bit, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.